Okay. So right now we are live. Okay. So we're going to move to IAM. Okay. Type here. If you want to follow me, guys, you can do it. Right. And right now I have 2 users, 1 group, 180 customer managed policies, 232 roles, and I don't have any identity provider. Okay. So what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to create a user. So I click here on users here, either ones. And I have 2 users right now. So one is just the user. It doesn't have any permissions, right? And one is in this particular group admin. So I'm going to create a user, and I'm going to call the user developer 1. Okay. So a developer should have programmatic access for sure, right? Because a developer uses the SDKs, a developer uses the CLI, a developer uses certain things. Just give me 1 second, guys.
This is great, Nathan. Thank you so much, as always.
You know me, I try to find the easy route.
No, really, I love it because it has most of the things that we may need. So
Yep.
yeah, this is amazing. I will make a copy and put it in every single corner of my house. Just kidding.
Okay, great. I'm here. So a developer, um, a developer needs programmatic access, right? And also needs console access. It needs both. Okay. We're going to, we can either generate or generate a password, and then the developer one user will receive an email with that password. And then if I want, I can leave this checked and or check if I want to, and have the user reset the password in the next signing. Okay. For now, I'm going to create the password for this guy, right? And I'm going to uncheck this. Okay. I will give the user the password, provide that information to the user. Next permissions. So right now, I can simply just continue. I don't have to put the user in a group if I don't want to. So I can go ahead and click next tags. Okay. Tagging, maybe I can say probably name, or maybe department development. Okay. Yeah. Right. And review it. So this user has no permissions because I didn't add the user to any group or anything, or attach any policy to the group. But this is basically, this is what it says. There's nothing attached to it. There's no permissions, there's nothing. And I create a user. Okay. Now the user has been created. Now here I am providing with the access key ID and the secret access key so that I can use this in the CLI or in the SDKs or the API, okay, to access the account using these keys. Remember that this is associated with the CLI, with the SDKs, and with the API, okay? Right now, you guys can do it if you want. Right now, I'm not, my intention is not to download this guy, so I'm gonna close this, okay? Now I have a developer here. The developer doesn't have any access. So if I try to do anything with the developer, I won't be able to do anything, right? Nothing, okay? So I have something called a policy simulator that I can check if the developer has any permission here. So I can go ahead and click on the dashboard here and check the policy simulator. It's right here. And I can go ahead and click on that and choose the developer one as the user. This guy has nothing here. There's no policies display. So I can select the service, any service I want, right? Let's say I want to select, let's say one that is very, very, very simple, like maybe S3. S3 here, right? And then I can run a simulation where I have to select an action. Let me select all actions just to cover all of them. And I see here, and it says deny, 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 deny. So this guy has no permission at all. Okay, there's nothing he can do. He's not can even unload a bucket. He cannot unload the bucket. If I sign in as this guy, as a developer, right? So let me log out and sign in as the developer, developer one. Okay, so this URL here, I can use it to log in as an IAM user. So I'm going to copy this guy, and this guy contains the session, not the session, the alias, right? that I can edit here if I want to. I can edit this, right? If I want, I'm gonna copy this, log out, right? And then log back in, training session. That's the alias. And here, a trainer, I'm gonna put developer. Well, if I put this guy here, it takes me directly to that. So developer. And my developer has the same password as the trainer, right? So now, if I come here and I try to create a bucket, right? It says you don't have permissions to list buckets, right? And it doesn't give me the option here to create a bucket either. So I cannot create a bucket. Let me see if I can go to CloudWatch. CloudWatch, let me see CloudTrail. CloudTrail. And create a trail. This option to create an organization trail, okay. Create a trail. Okay, so I'm able to create a trail. Let me see. Okay, unable to get trail. You don't have permissions to perform this action. So basically, I cannot do anything. DynamoDB. DynamoDB. In DynamoDB, try to create a table. You see table here, ID. And then create a table, not authorized. Okay, so basically, this guy has no permission whatsoever, and by default is implicitly denied, right? So I'm going to log in back as the trainer, right? And then I'm going to enter the code from Google Authenticator. And now I'm going to go ahead and create a group, right? And add the user to the group. So I'm going to go back to IAM. And now if I create a group, so the name of the group is going to be developers, right? Create a group here. So I'm going to put here developers, right? Now I'm going to add this guy to the group, the developer one to the developers group, and I'm going to attach some policies. I'm going to say, well, this guy will have access to code commit, okay? So I'm going to give him access to code commit, okay? Good. I'm going to give him access to code deploy, right? Code deploy. So code deploy, full access. It's a developer, okay? I'm going to give him access to code build, okay? So I have here code build, code build, code build. AWS code build. Okay, okay, so AWS code build, developer access. Okay, perfect. So right now, my developer group contains that. So also AWS code pipeline. No, AWS code pipeline. Okay, so that one I'm gonna write something more specific, code pipeline. Okay, where's the policy? Code pipeline. Maybe pipeline. What am I doing here? Okay. Code pipeline here. Pipeline. Okay, showing me here something else. Okay, let me see here. Okay. Yeah, I have a bunch of right here. So pipeline full access, code pipeline full access. So right now, I create the group, and the group contains, right now, if you take a look, the group has permissions 4 policies right here. Okay, so developer 1 has 4 policies attached that allow him or her to use those services. Okay, so now I can use the policy simulator, refresh the page, and I see that the developer 1 has these policies here. Okay, right? Developer 1. So what I have to do is check here the service, and I will say code commit. Okay, and now I'm going to select all actions for code commit, and I will say here, I see allow. See the it's a big difference. Now this guy has access to this, right? Now, I mean, this is very strict. We can give this guy access to S3 because probably has to work with S3, probably has to have some accesses to other things like maybe a power user, AWS power user, right? So a power user, it's a user who can have a full access to AWS, but management of IAM users groups is not allowed to that. So probably we can, instead of creating a developer group, right? I can create maybe another group and call the group, maybe call the group a power users, right? Power users, right? And that I can add developer, and look for the power user guy, right? So a power user, power user access. So that guy can do everything in the account except management of IAM. So I create a group and I add this particular power user policy. I can read the policy here on the permissions, and then I can see that this policy, right, contains everything, right? So it says provides full access to AWS services, right, and resources, but does not allow management of users and groups. So this guy cannot create users, cannot create policies, cannot create roles, cannot create groups. It cannot create anything related to IAM, right? But can do anything else. That's what a power user is, right? So right now, what I can do is remove the developers group, right? 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 And have the power users. So that could be the developer guy. Okay, so we just created a group, created a user, attached a policy to the group, added the user to the group, and that's it, right? Simple as that. So now, how can we create a policy? Well, let us see that we want to create a policy that is only read access to maybe S3, right? Or easy to read access. So I can go ahead here and click on policies, right? And create policy. There's a bunch of policies here that are AWS managed. There's one here, custom managed, is something that I added it, right? There are many ones that are AWS managed, right? There's a bunch of policies that I have created as well. So I'm going to create another one. So in this policy, we're going to let, for example, an S3 bucket of AC2 instance access S3. Okay, so we're going to choose a service, and that service is going to be EC2, where actually it's going to be S3, right? So S3. Now that we have S3, we're going to maybe list all my buckets, list the bucket, list the bucket versions, list jobs, just list. And list means read only, okay? All these guys, right? So in every action for read, for list, for read, maybe get the objects. No, maybe list only. Okay, list. Okay, that's it. That's it. So right now we have to choose this, and I can say for any single bucket and any single object. Okay, so or I can say all the resources, and that's it. But that's not good, right? As best practice, define permissions for only specific resources. So we say here, this guy or this guy, right? And then you can have a condition, but we don't need that. So basically what we're doing here is creating a policy that allows, so S3 listing policy, right? So we're creating a policy that only allows listing, multiple actions, but listing only, okay? So now you can create a policy. So the policy has been created, it's right here. This policy contains permissions for listing a bucket multi-part uploads, listing bucket versions, list bucket, allow list multi-part, list all my buckets, list jobs, only list, okay? This policy can be used now for everything. So I can go ahead and this guy here, right? I can add permissions to this specific guy, to this administrator guy. And this administrator can only, right, can only have this particular policy attached to it directly. So I can say this here next to view and add the permissions. So this particular user administrator has these permissions, this policy attached to it. This guy can only list buckets, right? And list the versions of the bucket and list other things, list jobs and things like that. Okay, so we attached a policy directly to a user. So we have attached a policy to a user, attach a policy to a group, and now we're going to attach a policy to a role. Okay, so now let us create a role. And this role, the name of this role is going to be S3 listing or only listing role. And we're going to attach that policy. So now that we have the role, we have to attach this to a service, just in case, a service. So this EC2 instance will only be able to list things or objects and buckets from the bucket, right? So I'm going to assign that to EC2. Next, permissions. So I'm going to go ahead and type S3 listing, right? And we're going to tag review. And this is the role. So I'm going to say S3 EC2 listing role, right? Only listing role. Okay. So now I have created a role that contains the policy that I created. It's right here. This is a row, and the row contains this policy. So policies are attached to roles, attached to users, attached to groups. A policy is what allows, right? Allows or denies access. So this is allow here. There's no deny. That's only allow, right? Allow. So if something doesn't have this policy, then we'll not be able to list the buckets and the versions of the bucket and all that. Okay, so we just created a policy. We created a role and attached the policy to it. We created a user and attached the policy. And we created another user and attached the user or added the user to the group where we had attached the policy to before. Okay, so this is how you work with this. You can create as many users as your limit accepts. In this case, we can create up to 5,000 users, right? You can create, if you go to Trusted Advisor, you will see how many groups you can create, right? Right. Service limits. We scroll down and we look for IAM group. See, we can create up to 300 groups. We can create up to 1,500 policies. We can create up to 1,000 roles, right? And IAM users will create up to 5,000. So, within those limits, you can create as many users, policies, roles, and groups as you want. Okay. So, any questions? Any questions about this?
No.
Okay, guys, if you don't have any questions, this is the demonstration for IAM.